To note, everyone, is what's probably going to happen is when this session ends, it may look almost as if you've already got a preview to a recording from the chat of this when it ends, and then you probably won't be able to view it. It'll say something like, you don't have access. And that's because our organizer, who is Sean, he's from my team, he's my moderator, he will be able to pull that. So he will probably be partnering with Terry following the session and making sure that you all have the recording. But I did initiate it, and you do also have transcription too. So if you want to follow along with what I'm saying verbally, you can use the transcription. That's turned on since recording is too. But Terry and Sean, we're all good to go. We've got the recording started. And so for those that have not been able to make it, they will be able to go back and review it. And for those of you that want to just view what I taught after the fact, we'll have a recording for you and we'll get it sent over as soon as this ends. That was good timing. Perfect. So one last slide I want to cover, just to give you a little bit of backgrounds on the program, is that, of course, one of the best parts is that you can also use OneNote to share and collaborate. So great minds don't always think alike, but they can share ideas and create together in OneNote. We can get more done when we work together. So sharing and collaborating in OneNote is simple. You can annotate notes, share ideas, and you can work together in real time with your coworkers, friends, and family. Now, obviously, this is a business environment, so we're more talking about coworkers and likely those that are internal with us. But just know that you can also use OneNote for personal use. I'm a big fan of OneNote for my professional life, but I use it personally too. And it's really great just to kind of keep your life as a whole organized. And I'll show you how to do that by creating notebooks for specific aims. And I'll also show you how you can divide your notebooks into sections. OneNote is big on color coding, which I personally love. And so I will be showing you how to do that today as well. Awesome. So I like to keep the slides short. I like to keep much of the session as much of a live demonstration as possible. So that's all I've got as far as slides go. But that gives you an idea of all of the settings of the meeting that you're currently in. That gives you an idea of how this is going to be run, the agenda, and then a little bit of background info on OneNote if you've never used it. So I think that that sets us up pretty beautifully to go ahead and move into my demonstration environment. So what you're going to see me do now is I'm just going to go ahead and close out of the introductory holding slides that I had prepared to kick off the session. You're going to see those disappear. And now I'm just going to go ahead and get moved over to my demonstration environment. This is going to be what's going to allow me to showcase everything that you're going to be learning about today specific to OneNote. Now, before I dive into features, I always just like to make sure that everyone can see properly. So if you could, please just use the reactions in the meeting that we're in and just give me a thumbs up if you're able to see my OneNote environment behind our meeting screen. Awesome. You all are quick. I'm seeing that interaction. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I always just like to make sure that you all are able to see properly before I get to talking too much. So here we are. This is where we'll get started, and this is where we're going to go ahead and kick off. Now, something to mention that I always start a session such as this with is that keep in mind you do have different choices as far as your access points for OneNote. So keep that in mind. I am personally accessing OneNote from my desktop today. So I'm using the desktop, and there's a couple of reasons for that. I use lots of different versions of OneNote. I love them all, but I find that the desktop version is super comprehensive. It's got a really great layout. It's got all of the most recent updates and a full range of the features I'll be showing you today. So it's a great place that you can go to access OneNote. If your environment in OneNote looks a little bit different than mine, then you may be using an online version. Nothing wrong with that. You can also access OneNote version through portal.office.com or through the mobile version. Either one is great. What I really appreciate is that if you add things to OneNote from the online version, it syncs up here and vice versa. So you can use the version that you like and that you're accustomed to. But I only mention that I'm using the desktop simply because it's a pretty comprehensive version of the program and simply because I don't want you to panic if your environment looks different than mine. If it does, it's just because I'm using the desktop. But keep in mind that most of the features are consistent. So regardless of the access point that you choose, the features will be there. And I encourage you to use the one that you are most comfortable with, or maybe the one that's used most commonly within your environment. Now, for those of you that haven't used the program at all, how I always like to refer to it is like a digital composition book. That's essentially what it is. So it allows you to divide things up into what are called notebooks. And it does also allow you to divide those notebooks into what are called sections that can each have pages within them. It's just like a physical composition book, but it's in the digital version here. It auto syncs, and you don't have to hit a physical save button while you are adding things to OneNote, which I really, really appreciate. Now I'm going to take you, now that we know how to access OneNote, I'm going to take you through navigation just to get you comfortable within the space, just to show you where you can find what it is that you may be looking for. And then from there, I'm going to show you all of the rich functionality that you have within OneNote to build out your sections, to build out your pages, and to add in data that maybe you need within pages for those that you work with. Keep in mind that OneNote essentially is a digital note-taking app that provides a single place for keeping information. You can organize a digital notebook with sections and pages. The canvas space is infinite, so that just means when you add things into OneNote, it expands to fit it, which is great. We're going to be tagging notes and making lists. We can think, plan, and share it, and then you can use it on multiple devices. A reminder is that since OneNote is a digital notebook, you can take it with you. So the endpoints are the web version, the desktop version that I'm using, and then of course you can use mobile platforms on Mac, Android, and iOS too. Most of the topics covered in this training apply to all of those access points for OneNote, which is great. I'm showing the desktop, but a little bit later in the session, if you all would like, time allowing, I can also show you the online version, just so you can kind of compare and contrast and see which version you would like to utilize. Now, OneNote is essentially divided into a central ribbon right up at the top here. We're going to have a secondary ribbon that allows us to control what are called notebooks and then sections. We have a search bar, a couple of them actually, that allows us to easily find the content we've made. And then you're going to find that when we go in and add pages later, that there's a little shortcut for them to be indexed over here on the right-hand side. Now, where I'd like to start is with file, because keep in mind that from here, you can do a few different things in terms of the settings. First of all, here you'll be able to see the notebooks you've created. Now, don't worry, I'm still going to show you how to make a notebook from scratch, and I'm still going to show you how you can then share it. If it's your personal notebook, I recommend keeping it just for your organization purposes. But if it's a notebook you want to share with a group of people, I'll show you how to do that. Notice that I've got the items for my notebooks here. These are automated for me. I am using just my own environment today since it's pretty cleaned out, but I've typically got a notebook for myself at work. That's why it says my name and then my organization. But we can create notebooks for separate business use, personal use, whatever we'd like. When we've made notebooks, which we'll be doing today, we can view them from this Backstage File tab, and we can easily invite people to the notebook. Furthermore, if we've been recently adding things, we can always view the sync status, even though I'll tell you in my own use, OneNote syncs really quickly. I've rarely had to manually sync it. It's pretty quick on its own, but just know that if you ever needed to, by coming to the Backstage view of Notebook under File, you can always view the sync status for your notebooks there. And you can open any backups of that info. Under Settings, you can share or move it, sync it, or close it. That's all from the Backstage view. A couple of other areas I want to bring your attention to is also your account. Now, this is typically going to be for your your Microsoft account in general. And this is going to be for things like your cloud storage. It's also going to be for, in our case, the OneNote notebook. That's all under account. Keep in mind that you can always switch them and add other accounts back here if you've got more than one. And then under options, these are really all of your settings for OneNote. They're pretty granular. I'm not going to deep dive into them because truthfully, I could do a class just on options in OneNote, but I will take you through a few key areas so you can make sure that everything is turned on and enabled and looks the way that you want. And then we're going to deep dive into all of the functionality that we have within OneNote as a whole. Starting right up at the top, notice that this is divided into a navigation. General allows me to control whether I've got a mini toolbar and whether my search bars are enabled, along with what my default font is, things of that nature. Display. This is typically where things are kept in the task bar. If you're using the desktop version, the way that I am, the layout, meaning where the notebooks are, where the sections are, and the pages. So you can always control that in the display. And then proofing will give you autocorrect options. And this is pretty common in other popular Microsoft 365 first party apps too. Syncing is just that. You definitely want to make sure that's on. That's at least what I would do because it will sync automatically and it's done super quickly. So any changes you make on any platform are synced in your notebook no matter what. Save and backup. Once again, that just ensures that there is backup for anything that you've added to OneNote, so it's saved at all times. And notice one last thing I would mention is that you can also go to language to determine what your display language is, and then also um, what language you're viewing when it comes to that authoring and that proofing that you're provided. Once again, the way that I got to my settings was under File and Options all the way down at the bottom here. Now, let's go ahead and note. So what we are going to find is that when it comes to OneNote, um, there are key elements of it when it comes to navigation. So the single line ribbon up at the top is an interface that's permanently shown until you need it, so you're not going to have to move it. And then you're going to find that when it comes to the notebooks that we're about to add, that they are shown over on the left-hand side right here. Now, what we're going to start with is making a notebook. I'll show you how to do that, and then I'll also show you how to create sections within it. Then we're going to start adding things into the pages, and that's where all of these tabs are going to start coming into play because really these are going to represent the content we're going to be adding into pages. So we'll definitely be spending a good amount of time there. And then a little bit later, we'll circle back to the search bars we see here and here. Easy enough to add a notebook. I've already got a couple for myself for work, but notice that I've had a few over the years, so I can always populate more notebooks and I can always create a new notebook right from here. And that's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and do that. And we will create new. And maybe it's asking me where I would want to keep that. I'll just go ahead and pick downloads for the time being. I'll give it a name and call this my, well, let's call it an example notebook for anything that I build out. I'll hit create. There we go. So now when we create a notebook, a couple of things take place. First of all, we see the name that I've given it. And we'll see that it shows here with my other notebooks. Now, by right-clicking on any of these notebooks, notice that we can always sync it, see the status, share the notebook or copy a link to it, move it up or down, etc. And actually for the ones that I have here for work, I'm going to go ahead and close those. And I'm just going to keep the one that I'm making as an example for you all today. So notice that you've got all of those settings just by right-clicking on that particular notebook. A little bit later, I'll show you how to share it, but keep in mind, you've already got shortcuts to that to copy a link to it and to share it. Furthermore, for any kind of meeting notes that you've had, typically that would show in your calendar here and you could add notes that are associated with them. That is just a shortcut here, any sections that were misplaced, or if you want to add quick notes. So those are small functionalities within OneNote, but we're going to go pretty traditional here, and we're going to stick with our notebook along with sections and pages. Think of a composition book. So if we've created a notebook and we've named it, just in the way that a composition book or a three-ring binder would have different dividers that are color-coded, same thing here. So now we're going to go ahead and add sections, maybe for like categories of info. And then under each section, I can have what are called pages. Just like in a three-ring binder, we would have dividers. Those are our sections. And then pages go into those dividers depending on what info is kept there. So I'm making an example notebook. And when I did, the program already defaulted a new section for me. It already added one because it's going to go along with this notebook that I'm creating. By right-clicking it, I can do a few different things. First thing I can do is rename it, and that's great. I think I'll go ahead and name it for my week. So maybe I'll call this week December 12th. So that'll be for the full week. Notice that I can always export this, delete it, move it or copy it, merge it with another section if I already had another one created, copy a link, password protect it if I want to share my notebook with others, but I want to protect a certain section where maybe only people with that password can view it. That's an option. And I can change up the section color because as you add more sections, maybe you want to be able to visually see at a glance each of them and kind of differentiate them. So that's how you could do that. The way that I got to that menu was by right clicking. When we've added the section, notice that we've got shortcuts here to add a new section, just like we've got the plus tab here that allows us to do so. But when we've created the section for this week, a page has already been created. We know that because over in my pane, I see untitled page. And technically, I'm in the body of that page right now. It's dated, it's timestamped, it's showing my progress. Now, this is for the week of December 12th, and maybe specifically, I want to name this one Wednesday, December 14th. So hopefully you see how this is working already. We've got a section for my week and maybe a page for each day of the week for things that I'm getting completed. But you can divide this however you would like. It's entirely up to you, but I'm just going by a pretty standard template, I would say. Notebook, sections, and it's all dated. That's how I would do it just in a very general sense. Notice that off to the right for the pages here, same thing. Rename, delete, cut, copy, paste, copy the link, move it or copy it, and then add a new page. And when we've got more than one page, we can always change up how they're sorted too, if we want to flip them around. I've just got the one page for now. It's pretty simple. We'll go ahead and stick with that for the time being. Now let's get into the content we can add to a page because that's the beauty of OneNote. So right now, you'll notice that when it comes to the canvas here, this blank page, that's exactly what it is a canvas. The more we add to it, the more the program is going to physically expand to fit whatever's in the page. So it's free form and it allows you to ideate without worrying too much about formatting. Like you may have to do in Word or PowerPoint. It's a bit more formal. OneNote's a bit more fluid. It's flexible and specifically it's flexible in the types of content that you can use to fill this canvas. Text can be used anywhere on the page. And I'm actually going to show you where you can find that in the tab in just a moment. But you can also use ink to annotate with either like touch or with a digital pen input if you have that. You can add media into this, lots of different sources. So now we're going to show how that's done. We've seen the file tab. I always call that the backstage view of the program because that takes us to our options, our accounts, things like that. But I'll go ahead and hit home. And this is all lit up because I'm in a physical page. If it's ever grayed out, you just have to click into the body of the page. And so now we see that it's open. The home tab is just that. It's the home tab. So it's kind of all of your central functionality, all of your basics. We'll get into some more advanced items as we move over across the tabs in order here. But I'll show you some of the basics and some of what you can begin to add in the way of text into a page in OneNote. Notice that you've also got the undo up at the top. You can pretty easily be editing as you create. You can paste into this, just like you may be accustomed to in all of your other Microsoft 365 first party apps. You can always change up your fonts, size, and formatting, bolding, italicizing, underlining, strike throughs, things like that. And what I appreciate is that you can also add pretty simple bulleted lists or numerical lists. Now, what's great is that the bulleted lists have a pretty substantial library. So, on top of just being a bulleted list, you can even change up the design too and have it look a certain way if you would like. So under the bulleted lists, if you use the drop down, You can change up the overall theme of that bulleted list if you would like. Same thing goes for a numerical list. You've got your basic items there, but you've also got numerals. You've also got lettered lists that are either all lowercase or capitalized, and you can customize too. I love them. I do like to use bulleted and numerical lists, but I'm about to get into tags in OneNote in a little bit, and those are my personal favorite because they're a bit more specific for whatever that page is for or whatever the kind of list is that you're making. For basics, bullets and numbered lists are great, but tags give you tons of options. So I'm going to spend a little more time there because I think you'll find a lot of good functionality there. You can always adjust your alignment too and your indentation. So if you want this to be formatted a very specific way when you're making a list, there it is. You can change the indentation and you can also change the alignment too. And your paragraph spacing, just like you would in Microsoft Word. Furthermore, if you want to use certain styles for your headings, here's some that you can pick from. And then if you've used any of that formatting, you can also clear it. So I've named this for today's date. And oh, I want to point out that as I added that title into this line, change the name over here. Same would happen if I renamed it on this side, it'd sync vice versa. So you can easily at any time change the name. And keep in mind, we don't have a save button. We don't need it. The program is saving anything I'm doing as I move along. And we're actually going to find that we can track changes later. That's helpful not only just for you, but if you're inviting people to this notebook and y'all are working together, then it gives you a way to be able to determine who added information to what place and what those changes looked like. Fantastic. So now we'll go ahead and move into tags. Tags, as you may notice, are divided up into its own little section under the Home tab right here. So now we've got a list of tags. The one that's selected, we can find them, and they're all from here. A tag, kind of like I was mentioning, is a very specific type of list. We've kind of seen that we can add bulleted lists. We can see that we can add numerical lists, but like I said, tags are pretty specific and they allow you to add things like tasks into them with a bit more specification though. Let me give you some examples. Luckily, one of my favorites is already selected, and that's the to-do tag. I love this tag. We see that it's already selected and we see that it shows here. And as I'm adding a tag, and the same goes for a text, you may notice that OneNote added it into this kind of infinite canvas here. And all I have to do is drag it around. I can put this anywhere I want in the page and it will be moved. Similarly, I can go ahead and start building out that to-do tag. So let me kind of show you how they work. This is my list of maybe things I need to get done for today, Wednesday, December 14th. So a couple of things that I need to complete. I would say maybe compile. I'm just thinking of things that I do throughout my day, giving you some examples of things that you can do too. Compile registration lists. On top of teaching courses like this, I manage them too. So when it comes to setting them up and getting them prepared for accounts, that's something I do. So something I have to complete on a regular basis is maybe getting a list of who's been registered for a class. Just giving you an example. As I add that item, we're seeing a small box to the left of it. Let me add another thing, and you'll notice when I hit enter, it's populating there. That's how these lists work. Whether it is bulleted, whether it is numerical or a tag, when you hit enter, it's going to add it because you've already got that tag selected. So on top of that, if I'm pulling my registration lists, maybe send email reminders. And I'll add one more for good measure. Maybe I'll just say complete daily recap. So I've got some good items there. But what I want to show you about that to-do tag that I really appreciate is that you can physically mark them off. Right here from within the program, it adds a checkbox next to that particular item. You can always uncheck too. By right-clicking, you can check it, remove the tag, find a new tag, or customize it. But I love this because it's as easy as checking those off and it keeps me accountable. That's the to-do tag. It's one of my favorites. But you're also gonna notice that in this little, scroll box here, you've got ones for things like important, questions, remember for later, definition, highlight, contacts. The possibilities are endless. Books to read, sources for articles. There are lots of tags to pick from. That's where find tags comes into play. So now you can group them by the tag name. This is kind of showing you a preview. Like I've been using the to-do tag, it's bolded and it's showing me what I've started making. Gives me an idea of when I've been using tags. That is how they work. I'm going to keep the to-do tag there actually. Another thing that you could do is that you could also, now this would require it being synced up within Outlook. So it's going to require some connection between the two of them. But technically, you could, for anything you flagged and set a task for yourself in Outlook, technically, you can pull those flags over into OneNote. Now, I don't have anything saved under my Microsoft account that are flagged items in my Outlook. If I did, I could pull them and then I could delete them. It does require some integration. You can always check internally to make sure that's integrated within your environments. If it is, there is the possibility with a little bit of teamwork between OneNote and Outlook to kind of sync up your day and everything that you're getting completed. You can email just this page. That's one of the ways that you can share this, but we'll get into some more broad sharing later. Furthermore, we can also add meeting details. Once again, another item that we can add from here. Add meeting details from your Outlook calendar. You can add subject, attendees, date, and location. It's not showing any, for example, in my Microsoft account right now, probably because I've made a new notebook. But typically, as long as those are synced up, as long as you're signed in with that same account in both places and it's enabled in your environment, you are able to do that. Now, another feature that I really like, and I'm just going to go ahead and click out of that space that I had for tags, just so you can see it come to life, is I've got a space for dictate. Dictate is awesome. That's where you can use voice to text. So I'm going to show you how it works. Dictate is such an awesome feature. I love that I can add this into my notebook with my voice. I turn off the microphone and that's how it looks. So what will happen when I hit dictate, you saw it in real time, is I hit the microphone icon and then a small settings bar pops up for dictate. As long as this turns bolded and we saw those lines coming off of it to show me that it's active, um, we can see everything I said here was added. So I love that I'm able to do that. That is voice to text. It's called Dictate. It's an accessibility feature, actually. Microsoft has a lot of accessibility features built right into their programs, our programs. And so that's one of them. Keep in mind, this is a version of a text box. I simply did voice to text. If I want to resize it or remove it, great. By right clicking, I can cut, copy, paste, um, order it, remove it, whatever I want. That was Dictate. Under settings, once again, you can change the language. So if you are bilingual, or maybe you speak multiple languages, you can choose what language you're using when you are enabling dictate. I was using English, but you can always change that. I know that Microsoft Teams is an example. I think as of the last time I checked, supports 60 languages. So I would say OneNote supports at least that, if not more. So you can go in and change that language and then just make sure that you've got the microphone selected for whatever device you're utilizing. And I have it turned off. That's why you didn't see punctuation for me, but we can enable auto punctuation too. Um, so that's all under the gear icon for dictate, and we can simply hit the X to close that. That was under home and dictate. You can also transcribe. That's if you were maybe recording audio, and then you can use that to transcribe actual audio if you'd like to, another accessibility feature. I love them. I think they're fantastic. Really great tools, and they're right there within the home tab. So even if you want to add things to your OneNote with your voice, you can do that. Now, so far we've done tags and we've gone into voice to text functionality, transcription. It's all great. But let's go ahead and move now into the insert tab. This is what really brings OneNote to life. I know that so far I've called OneNote a digital composition book, but sometimes I like to refer to it as a digital scrapbook, and all that I mean by that is that you can keep different forms of media in it. That's all I mean by that. It doesn't have to be just text. It can be layered sources, and they can be different kinds of sources, and that's why I love OneNote. So I'm gonna show you the other things that you can add here and really make this a rich environment and bring it to life. Under insert, this is where you can add other items beyond just your basic text. You'll see how simple it is to format these items. So now, let's say I'm doing my recap and maybe in my to-dos, I want to compose assignments for my team. One of the things that you can insert right into a OneNote that makes your work super simple is a table. And you can simply do so by sizing, but keep in mind that you can also pull one from an Excel spreadsheet if you already have one. But let's say that I'm getting together some assignments here that maybe later I'll share or however that's going to look for me. I can go ahead and size it and say, maybe I need a table, looks like this. I hit click, there it is. And I can still move that around. So here's my little to do tags of what I need to get done. But now I've got that table and I can go in and physically start adding in people's names for people that I work with, maybe. And I'm just using samples of demo accounts that we use. So maybe Patty goes here, maybe Megan goes here, maybe let's see, Pradeep, he would go here too. And notice that the table is expanding for the text that I'm adding, and the same would go here. So if Patty's assignment is to maybe send over accounts that need registration lists compiled. Do you see that the program's just moving across? That's for texts, that's for tags, tables, anything you add. It's part of why the program is so great. You'll notice that when I added a table, a new icon populated that allows me to reformat it. That will happen when you select something in OneNote. Usually you'll get another tab that will open that gives you more options. So if I really want to go in on this table and select certain columns, add rows, even add shading and make it look nice, I can do that. And once again, if you're a big user of Excel, you can still pull things over from Excel if you would like. But we're going to get into that integration when it comes to files a little bit later. Great. So now we've seen how we can easily add a table. We can also add in printouts or was just going there. We can also go in and we can attach um, physical files if we want. So I could literally pull from my device and I could add a link to a file right here. This is hopefully starting to demonstrate the fact that this is a multimedia environment. You can add lots of things here. You can add a spreadsheet, one that's existing, or you can create a brand new one from here too. Furthermore, you can add things like screen clippings and even images. And let me just show you how robust images are. If I go to add an image, what I love is that you can pull from your device, from maybe your camera, or you can pull from a search engine that's built right into OneNote. Now, this is definitely the case with other Microsoft apps too, but when we do this, it's going to bring the options to me. So if I don't have an image saved yet, and I wanna find one, I can do that. And we can see that when I share pages or sections, it makes it a little bit more visually appealing. It could be a company logo if I've got it saved on my device, whatever I want. I'm just gonna make this kind of fun to look at. So maybe we'll search for Wednesday since this is just for our day of the week. There we go. Okay. So I'll go ahead and pick one that I like. And I think I'll go ahead and use maybe this one's kind of funny. Wednesday, still not Friday. So we'll go ahead and add that right to the notebook there by hitting insert. Takes just a moment for it to populate. There it is. Now, when we add an image from a search engine, Same thing. You can move it around and you can also resize it. Doesn't have to be the size that the program added it as there. You'll even get a readout of what that size is when you add it, but let's make that a little bit smaller. Just something kind of fun. And then we'll move this up too. And then you'll see same thing. Right clicking, cut it. You can even change the background of the page and make that image the backgrounds. You can change the text, you can change the formatting, whatever you want. So that's how you can add images, but more specifically, remember that I did not have that image saved. I was able to pull it online. Same thing goes for videos. If maybe you've got an instructional video for people from an employee portal or just a video of a process that's helpful, you can add it right from here. You can also add links if you just want to add a link to a website that maybe you all have to use on a regular basis for accessing your resources, whatever that looks like. Transcription is still here. We can still record audio. We can add timestamps, although we really don't have to, and I'll show you why a little bit later. And then we can even add a template. I love this. Page templates are built right into OneNote, and this allows you, just going to minimize our window, to kind of do some of the work for you in terms of formatting. I personally like to customize OneNote, but if you're a person that really likes templates, there's some built in that can be very helpful to you. And what I like is that they're typically separated by category or by aim. So some of the ones that we see here are academic or business or decorative or planners. And then you'll notice that you can pick your default or you can even create a new template. If this is kind of a funny one, but if we had one that we want to use as a template, potentially maybe we want to share it later, cool. We can save that page as a template too. But let's go ahead and go to business. Oh, fantastic. It looks like we can use one maybe for like a project overview. That's how a template is going to look. It filled out so much for us already. The title, some formatting, spaces where I can add text. That's how I'm able to use a template. All I had to do was go to Insert, Page Templates, and then it brought these up that I could pick from, and specifically I used Project Overview. Now, all I have to do is hit Undo to go back to the page I was just using, but I wanted to show you that as an example. That's under Insert and Page Templates. They're fantastic, and they make your work a little bit easier. Now, I'm going to go ahead and click into the page. And I just want to show you as well that we do also have the capability under Insert. Let's see if I can activate it here to use what is called Math Assistant. So I'm going to go ahead and type something out, and I'm going to go to Insert, and it might actually be under, oh, perfect. Yep, it's actually under the Draw tab. So we'll go into that in just a moment. But you do have functionality in OneNote to do basic math too, which is awesome. It's a fantastic feature if maybe you have to keep calculations on a regular basis for things that are happening at work. So that's actually going to be under the Draw tab, but just know that we're getting into some math functions now, and that we can also add in physical equations from here too. All right, so the Draw tab. Now this is where you can go if you're using touch, if you have a touch screen device, if you're using a digital pen, whatever you would like. Notice that you've got some drawing tools or some implements up at the top here. I can go ahead and use that. I am using just my touchpad on my device, so not the neatest in the world, but we could see that I can go to the Draw tab here just for a signature. I can undo, simply erase if I want to. Perfect. And then under the Draw tab one more time, just make sure if you're not using the pen that you make sure that that's no longer selected, because if not, it will still be inking. And if you want to add a text box, you've just got to make sure that it's no longer selected. You can also, if you're using a pen, like a digital pen, you can add it. If you're drawing with touch, which is what I'm doing in this case, you can do that. And if you really need to sketch things out, you can even use a ruler, which is awesome. So that'll give you a straight line to draw with. And you can also turn that too using just your touch implement. I'm just doing that with actual touch on my screen. So the ruler also allows you to have straight lines if maybe you have to occasionally sketch things for work or map things out. We can remove that when we need to. Now, you can also get super granular and you can format the background of the page itself. So under formatting, right now I'm not using anything, but you'll notice that I've got things like ruled lines if I want to use that, in different sizes too, which is helpful. Or for those of you that do have to sketch things out or map things, you've got gridded lines too, also different sizes. Furthermore, you can change up the line color of those grids if you are going to use them. You have the option to turn that on always if you use that on a regular basis. And if you prefer, you don't need those. You can always just do a page color if it's for a group and you want to make it kind of visually appealing. So that just gives a little bit of gives a little something to the background there, little bit of color to look at, but once again, you don't have to. You can remove the color altogether. And furthermore, when you go to page color and you add it, notice that you do also have the capability to use what is called a quick access toolbar. And I'm going to go there in just a bit actually and show you how we would do that. But we'll go ahead and make that none, and we'll go ahead and remove the color too. You can also add in shapes for basic lines, for graphs, for anything that you may need. And then keep in mind that you can do also ink to math. So keep in mind that maybe I can do, ooh, I know that I'm using touch, but hopefully this will be readable to the program. So now I'm going to do 2 plus 2 equals. Go ahead and hit insert. There it is. And then it looks like the equation button popped up here. That gives me the option to add items to my equation, to build that out a little bit further. And so ink to math and the equation option can help you to solve equations here and also to build them out. So that is how you're able to do that. That's kind of an extension there. It was under draw and it was ink to math. Ink replay too will actually turn anything you write into an animation, kind of like when I did my signature. Now we've seen how easy it is to make changes in OneNote and how robust this program is, and that's where history comes into play. Specifically, if you're going to be inviting people to this notebook or this section or page, and if you want to see what's been going on, you can do things like for any changes, you can choose whether this page is read. You can literally mark it as read or unread. You can see any recent edits by a time frame, whether it's today, yesterday, a week ago, however that looks. Find it by author. You can always search by a person. Now, it's just me, so I don't have anyone to search right now. But if I wanted to, that's under history as well. And then page versions. I love this. This will actually show you all of the versions this page has come through. So far, I haven't closed the page yet. So technically, it's not like a version has been saved necessarily, or multiple versions, I should say. This is a version, but there's not multiples. If there were, this is where they would show. I've got the option to delete all versions, either in the section or in the notebook. You can always disable it, but I like to keep it enabled actually, because then I can kind of see the changes that have been made, particularly if I've got multiple authors here. You're definitely going to want to see that, and we're about to go more into that actually. Then you've also got the recycle bin, maybe for anything that was deleted in the way of like a section or a page. You can empty it or you can turn off that history altogether. Under the review tab, lots of helpful stuff here. This is where you can go for spell checker, smart lookup. You can check the accessibility of your document. Make sure that it's inclusive. It's going to give you some best practices and recommendations for how to make sure this is inclusive to the full audience of internal people that maybe you're sharing this with. Translate. You've got that built right in for selected text for those various languages, like I mentioned to you. And same thing, you can still set your proofing language if you would like. You can always set a password for this section. If you do, it's going to allow you to set that password from here and apply what section it's going to be for. I've only got the one, but you can have multiple sections here. So you can always set that password or remove it. And that was all under review. Linked notes. Linked notes would be for if you want to kind of connect things. I've got quick notes. I've got the one for this week. This allows me, once I've built this out, to link things if I would like to. Popped up in a pane for me. And then finally, um, under that review tab, perfect, we're good to go there. We're going to pop over to view. This allows you to change how the environment looks as a whole for you. The normal view is going to have the page you're working in and this, or I'm sorry, the canvas and the list of pages on the right. That's how this looks. You can do full page view. Immersive reader will actually read aloud text to you. So we've seen voice to text. This is text to voice. It's going to read it aloud to you. We can change page color again, ruled lines, even the size of the paper if you want to print this. Furthermore, you can switch up your background, zoom in or out, create a new quick note, all from view. And then finally, beautiful timing. If you want to keep your learning going outside of sessions such as these that we facilitate, then help allows you to do that. That's actually got some built-in guides for you right within the program. Like I mentioned, you're going to have a recording of this session following the conclusion of it, so you can go back and look at anything that I showed in this session. But if you kind of want a guide that's going to walk you through it when you're in the program yourself, that's where show training comes in handy. Show training is fantastic. That's actually going to open up a help pane. I've still got password protect open. Help is going to open like this. And maybe if you're looking for a particular feature within OneNote, but you're still new to it, you can't find it, just search it by term. Or you've got little sections here like Quick Start, how to take notes, how to format them. And this will give you step-by-step guides in the program. That's under help and it's called show training. You can also give feedback too. And that can even be around updates you hope to see made to OneNote. I will say that many of the features that become updated come from feedback like that. So super helpful. One last thing I will show you is sharing, of course, because I'm sure that you're going to want to share sections or pages or even full notebooks. Easy enough. All you have to do is go up to the share icon here. Do I want to share my entire notebook, copy a link to it, or just email a copy of a page? And then it's going to have me actually save it typically to my OneDrive. Now I'm signed in with my Microsoft account, so notice it already populates here to share it. Or I can just share a copy of a page individually or even as a PDF. I hit that cloud storage. There we go. It's just syncing up those changes. Right? Just a moment before you can share, we're uploading the notebook. There we go. And then you're going to get a window that looks like this. The link here allows you to choose who you're sharing with. Is it anyone, people in my org, people with existing, or specific people? For the most part, it's usually going to be specific people because I imagine it's going to be internal people for you, for the most part at least. You can determine if you want them to be able to edit or just view. Apply. I type in their name. Teams is going to pull from an active directory of those that I work with. I'm using Sean as an example. He's my moderator. If I wanted to share this notebook with Sean, there he is. I could leave it where he's able to edit it. And then when I'm ready to send it to him, once I've picked his name, I can hit the Outlook icon or the send button. Or if I prefer, as long as I've got it where he can edit it, I can always just send him a link to instead. But it does, within reason at least, connect right to Outlook if I wanted to send him an email. That is how you share. That can be right from the share icon here to share the whole notebook, just a link, just a copy of the page, and even to manage the access, which is fantastic. So you can choose, you can see what links are giving access to this in general and stop sharing if I need to. Keep in mind from the notebook, by right-clicking it, share it. From the section, by right-clicking it, um, export it, copy a link to it from a page or a notebook, share up above. So it's built into everywhere in the program to make it easy for you to see. Now, I know that we've covered quite a bit of material today. We've talked about what OneNote is. We've shown the different ways that we can access it. We've shown all that we can do within OneNote. And I did mention that I want to leave some time at the end for Q&A, and I do want to adhere to that. So with that being said, that is going to begin at least to wrap the end of the content portion of this afternoon's training session. I can tell you personally that everything that you've learned about OneNote has transformed the way that I'm able to collaborate with those that I work with. And I know that it can do the same for you as well. For those of you that don't have questions, once again, that's going to begin at least to wrap the end of the content portion of this afternoon's training session. We want to thank you so much for attending. We look forward to working with you again in the future. We hope that you enjoy your afternoon and the remainder of your week. For those of you that do have questions, myself and my moderator will stick on for maybe another minute or so just to see what comes in. If we don't see anything in the way of questions, we will go ahead and stop the recording and end the live portion of the session. Be reminded this was recorded. But keep in mind, if it looks like you've got a preview to the recording in the chat and then you can't access it, that's normal. Sean was the organizer on this session. He's going to download that and get that to your point of contact, and they'll probably make that available internally so you can take a look at it. One last thing is that Sean, my moderator, did also place a link to a survey in the chat of the meeting that you're currently in. If you follow the link to the survey, it's going to take you to a survey where only the first question is going to require a response. It's going to be on a 1 to 10 scale, with 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. We would greatly appreciate an 8 or higher, but particularly a 10. So if you could please go in and let us know how we did, we would really appreciate it. I was your presenter. My name's Erin. My moderator's name is Sean. If you want to leave us comments on what you thought of the session, we would really appreciate that. But other than that, everyone, I did see some positive feedback in the way of reactions. I really appreciate that. My moderator did also give you some extra resources in the chat just to get you going with OneNote. And keep in mind that you do have guides right within the program. You'll have my recording to watch, and then the program will help you with guides within it. But I love teaching this class because I use OneNote a lot myself. So I'm pretty passionate about it. It's an awesome program, and I feel like it keeps me organized. So I feel like it's going to do the same thing for you as well. But what I really like is that it integrates with all the other things you use. It can integrate with like Outlook, for example. You can share it out. It just allows you to keep everything all in one place, and it limits the amount of juggling that you have to do. So hopefully you got some good value out of the session, and we're really happy to have supported. Now, Terry, you said if we wanted to see other trainings on OneNote, where would we see it? So a couple of options for that, actually. In that little link that Sean put in the chat, there's actually some walkthrough videos there that are different for you. There's actually the guides in the program, and then just another option. Sean is working with you directly. If you all wanted to set up additional courses for OneNote in the future, you just let us know. We can always support with that in the future and do others if we need to. So that answer is kind of threefold from the sources he gave you, from what I showed you in the program, and then also if you would like us to train you again, we're more than happy to support you and be able to do that. So you've got tons of resources to help you in your use of OneNote. Great questions, really good participation, everyone. We really appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.